Here is where we can view the variables in our model, but also make changes to them so that way we can better fine-tune our assumptions. In order to put any of the charts or graphs on the screen, you can drag any of the chart icons from the top bar. First, I'll drag out a line chart and drop that out onto the screen. And I'm going to move that into a place where I'd like it and resize it to the size I want. Now, I click on any of the nodes on the left, and that will show me the variables that are associated with that node that I wrote earlier in the modeling section. So in this case, I want to take a look at profit. So I'm going to drag profit into my line chart and drop it. We can now visually see what profit looks like, plus we can inspect any particular point to see what the value is at that quarter. If we want additional variables, we can drag in multiple, and if we'd want to remove anything, we can drag those variables out of the chart or drag the entire chart off the stage. I'm going to put profit back out onto the layout, but this time I'm going to add a what if line chart. And a what if line chart is going to allow us to manipulate variables in our model. So here I'm going to go to the professional node and pick a what if variable that I want to ask questions about. In this case, I'm going to use billing rate. So here we see billing rate, which in our model was 1400 for 4, 1500. But beyond just looking at the values, we can now manipulate them. So let's say in quarter 4, we want the billing rate to decline. How would that affect profit? And we can see the impact on profit was negative. Profit went from 145,000 to 86,000. Now if we move that value up, we would expect profit to increase, and we can edit any of the values or all of the values in this line. Now after we've made our changes and we feel that they're sufficient, we can either click Apply to Model, and that will then rewrite the equation for billing rate, or we can simply click Clear Changes and go back to the way the model was originally. Now I'm going to demonstrate goal seeking. First I'm going to take off the chart I have and put on a new goal seek line chart. Then I'm going to select the variable I'm interested in, and in this case it's profit, so I'll drop that into the goal seek line chart. Once again, this has a dotted line around the outside, so we know it's editable. But in this case, I'm going to be changing the value in profit by changing another variable. So first we have to select which variable we want associated with profit. And in this case, we're going to use billing rate. So I'm going to drag it into the what if variable box down below. Now I can specify what value I want in profit, and the changes will be made in billing rate. So let's say we want profit in quarter 2 of 2008 to be something positive. What would that reflect? That means my billing rate had to go from 1400 to 1580. And I can do that for individual points, or I can do that for the entire line. And once again, I can click Apply to Model, or I can click Clear Changes to go back to the way the model was originally. Now let's take both of these charts off of the layout and pull out an impact analysis chart. First, we want to select which variable we want to analyze. In this case, we're going to choose profit. Now I want to pick which variables I think are going to have a large impact on profit. I'll select days billed in professional, days billed in associates, and days billed in administrative. I'm going to drag the slider to 0, and what I'm showing here now is if there's no change in days billed, there'll be no change in profit. Now if I move the slider to 10%, we'll be showing what is profit going to be if there's a 10% change in days billed. It'll be up 11% if days billed is changed in professional, up 5.29% if days billed is changed in associates, and less than 1% if days billed is changed in administrative. Now let's remove this and take a look at our last chart, the variable tree. Here I'm going to take a look at a particular variable I'm interested in. In this case, I'm going to choose profit. What I'm showing now is all the relationships that are involved in profit. Whereas before, all of the charts and graphs we were looking at were showing the numbers or the values, this is actually showing the logic and the relationships in a variable. So this shows that when we were calculating profit, we took into account total expense and total revenue. For the calculation of total expense, we took into account total other expenses and total people expense. And if you mouse over any individual item, it'll show you the actual equation we used for that calculation. So far what I've shown were quick ways to manipulate and test the data in your model. But with the add and remove icons, you can also create layouts that you can use during presentations. Here's an example. This shows various charts which I have put together ahead of time before going into a meeting. And I've placed out on the stage the variables and the values that I think are going to be important. I can use this for just presenting the data, but also if someone asks a question, I can immediately make changes to the model, and the changes that they request can be shown. This concludes the PlannersLab introduction. Thank you for your time.